Hi, and welcome to Conversations with B'nai B'rith. I'm CEO Dan Mariaschin. Thanks for joining us today. It can feel like we're drowning in streaming services these days, most offering the same kind of mainstream content. With hundreds of options at our fingertips, some of the most compelling content can get lost in the shuffle. Well, there's a whole pocket of exceptional Jewish cinema as well as series programs that deserve a spotlight. Films and shows that win awards, break box office records, and tell stories that highlight the rich, diverse culture of the Jewish community. My guest today is Neil Friedman, co-founder of ChaiFlicks, the world's leading Jewish streaming service, and founder and president of Menemsha Films. For the past 2 decades, Neil has helped bring Jewish and Israeli films to audiences who might never have discovered them otherwise. Since rolling out in 2020, ChaiFlicks has revolutionized how Jewish media reaches viewers, offering a wide range of content, including popular Israeli TV series, international films, and cooking programs. In 2024, ChaiFlicks released an acclaimed miniseries on the life of author Franz Kafka. Neil's overarching company, Menemsha Films, has built a reputation as the preeminent distributor of Jewish and Israeli films worldwide. And under Neil's leadership, Menemsha has earned 5 Academy Award nominations for 5 consecutive years and has distributed 6 art house films that each of which grossed over $1 million at the box office. You might be familiar with some of these films. This summer's breakout Tribeca Film Festival award-winning film Bad Shabbos, which has already grossed over $1.2 million, the quirky British comedy Doe, starring Jonathan Pryce, or the German World War II drama Gloomy Sunday, just to name a few. But before we get into our conversation, a quick reminder: if you enjoy this program, subscribe to Conversations with B'nai B'rith wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch all of our past episodes, and follow us on Facebook to stay updated with all of our latest content. Neil originally began his career as an attorney, working as a corporate lawyer on Park Avenue, before making the leap to entertainment law. From there, he climbed through the industry ranks, eventually taking on high-level roles at various production companies, including as vice president of New Line Cinema and as executive vice president at Columbia Pictures. But despite having what most would consider a dream entertainment career, Neil has said he felt that something was missing. He eventually faced a crossroads: continue working for others or take the leap to become his own boss, a decision that led to the founding of Menemsha Films in 1998. Neil, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
Well, before we dive into how ChaiFlicks is changing the streaming landscape, I'm curious about your own journey. We talked a little about it, from working in major Hollywood studios to focusing specifically on Jewish content. What really drove you to make that switch?
When I worked in New York, you're working mostly in the independent world, even as an entertainment lawyer, in those various jobs that I had in New York, including New Line. And the one studio, the change came when I got offered a job to work at Columbia Pictures, and I moved from New York to Los Angeles and started to work in the studio system. But I think my heart and my soul is really in the independent world. I ran a Pressman Films for 6 years, which is one of the leading producers in Hollywood over the last 20 years or so. And from there, I was the co-head of the William Morris Agency Independent Film Division. So you can see that I started to migrate back into the independent world with those last 2 jobs from Columbia. When I started my own company and decided to go out on my own, I became a garden variety art house distributor, just like many of them that you all know about. And what happened over the course of the first couple of years, starting in 2003, I started to migrate to something that I thought I knew had real expertise in, and that was Jewish theme films. In the second year, 2004, we distributed a movie called Gloomy Sunday, a German film that was based, that's setting it's based in Budapest during the war. And we did, is beginner's luck. The film did $1.5 million. I did have a little background on that because I'd heard before I had acquired the film that the film had played in the same theater in New Zealand for 73 consecutive weeks. And I had a feeling that that was a good harbinger of things to come. The film really took off in the United States, even though I didn't have a lot of experience as a distributor, and played 69 weeks in Boston and 54 weeks consecutively in Los Angeles, which, you know, today would be impossible to have happen with the streaming world out there. But it was a cherished moment for a beginner like me.
So I'm probably typical in a way as a Jewish moviegoer. Sometimes we've stumbled on Jewish content. Sometimes we know that it's coming. We know that there are some films, of course, blockbusters like Schindler's List and others. How do you, with that universe out there, which I now understand is a very large universe of documentaries and films, how do you go about assembling all of this and then making it available for streaming? Where do you go to look for this?
You look everywhere and you get referrals from everyone. Well, obviously we have a staff, and we are looking, our network is a Jewish network. So we have acquired a series, which really is the engine of any subscription service. We've acquired series from Argentina, from Switzerland, from Germany, from Austria, Poland. We're interested in diversity of Jewish storytelling. We have many Israeli series on our network, but we're very much focused on having series from all over the world, and having that diversity and have different storytelling from different parts of the world from different artists. And I think that's what distinguishes ourselves from everybody, in the sense that we are really looking to be a home for Jewish storytelling worldwide. And we're looking for diverse stories from different creators and from different parts of the world.
So what constitutes a Jewish film? Is it Jewish content? Is it a Jewish director? Is it a Jewish actor? What kind of standards are you using when you look to acquire these films?
That's a great question, Dan. It's not a Jewish director. It's not a Jewish actor. It's a Jewish theme, because what we do at ChaiFlicks is we are sharing the Jewish soul, if I could say it that way. There are so many stories from so many different places about our history, our cultural history, and we want to connect, and we do, with the viewer, the subscriber, whose heart is connected to the storyline of a film. That's the key for us. And I think you asked me, how did I migrate to this area? I think for many reasons. I was always interested in this area, even as far back as college. But what I really always thought I knew probably more than anyone else, is that I really understood what that connection is that Jewish people, generally speaking, culturally, feel to a Jewish storyline. And although we started in 2003 as a general art house distributor, in about 2012, we became exclusively a Jewish themed distributor. So that every single film we released from 2012 to the present day has a Jewish theme, not a Jewish actor or a Jewish director, but the Jewish theme that I'm talking about. And we have acquired 15 films a year. Since 2012, I think we probably have over 300 films in our library that are Jewish themed. And that's set us up to eventually start ChaiFlicks, because of that background and that training and that education I had with looking for Jewish films during that period of 2012 to 2020.
You know, it's interesting, the volume, the number that you just mentioned, because the conventional wisdom has always been that Hollywood in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s even though, of course, many Jews involved in the industry, both on the business end and on the acting end as well. That, treating Jewish subjects, people were very careful, and we had Gentleman's Agreement, we had Crossfire, and we had a few others. But there was a tendency to think, well, let's not make these things too Jewish because the audience is not out there. They wouldn't understand it. The Jewish community is small. Now, there seems to be this tremendous proliferation. Is that kind of a revelation to you as you've worked to build ChaiFlicks?
It is a revelation. I don't know whether we're at the crossroads though right now with that subject matter, but I will tell you from the time we started in 2020 for ChaiFlicks, every year I think that there's not going to be enough films available, but that turns out to be more than the prior year. So last year we acquired 18 films. We had a banner year. One of those films was Bad Shabbos. We're talking about non-studio films, Dan. We're not talking about, so that we're looking throughout the independent world to acquire films. And what is unique about the Jewish world, and I'm glad you're sitting down because you're not going to believe what I'm about to say. In North America, there are 175 Jewish film festivals.
Wow.
175. So that makes the Jewish niche outside Hollywood a viable distribution pathway. And we came up from the very beginning as a distributor, utilizing the Jewish Film Festival network with our films that we acquire. So they will play throughout that festival system and play as many as 100 of those film festivals before we bring them out to the theaters. I think Bad Shabbos is a great example. The awareness of the film Bad Shabbos from the film festival route was enormous. And when we started to release the film, people already knew about it and had seen and heard about it from their friends, but they also had heard about it from the film having played locally in that Jewish film festival. So we are actually up to 1.4 now on the film, and we expect to do in excess of 1.6, which in today as an independent film is really a miracle. I have a friend who owns a theater circuit here in Los Angeles. He says that post-pandemic, 1.6 is equal to 3.6 pre-pandemic. Why? Because so many people during the pandemic, because of the pandemic, have gotten accustomed to staying home and watching films at home and not going out to the movie theater. So it's so much harder now in the post-pandemic period that we're in. So that this is the first film post-pandemic that for us that's done over $1 million. The other 5 were pre-pandemic.
Yeah, you anticipated my next question, which was that you launched ChaiFlicks during the pandemic when so many people, as you said, were looking for fresh content at home. And 5 years later, the platform has grown as a streaming service with a niche audience. And now I want to get to the audience. Following up on that, who is the ChaiFlicks audience today? What is? Has that changed over time? And tell me about the demographics.
I think that I don't think that the audience has changed that much over time. I think it's gotten deeper in terms of it's broadened a bit because right now we're in different times in the last year or two than we were previous to the last 2 years. So I think what's happened in the last 2 years, the audience has deepened because of people want to hold on to their heritage and their cultural history in a way that they didn't before. 2 reasons. 1, anti-Semitism, okay? Proliferation of anti-Semitism. 2, what's going on in the Middle East. People are uncomfortable and upset and want to sort of hold on to understand where they came from, what their Judaism is, and learn more about what their past history was in every which way.
Well, beyond distribution, how does ChaiFlicks or Menemsha Films help support filmmakers, especially emerging Jewish voices who might not otherwise get visibility? Because it sounds like in your search, I'm sure now people are coming to you. There are names that we might not know, but the work and the body of their work is is terrific. So how do you do that?
Well, that's the perfect question, really, because that's the idea of what we're trying to do here. What we saw, and I want to do this in simple cycles here, so I explain it to you. With this proliferation of Jewish film festivals, it built up an audience of Jewish film watchers that doesn't exist probably in any other niche: African American, gay, lesbian, Latin. This is unique to the Jewish world. And what I had seen when I started the company Menemsha back in 2003, that this is something to take advantage of, because you actually have a mini circuit of distribution through the Jewish Film Festival circuit. And you also become, not only do you gain information about how your film can play before an audience, but one important thing: each of those 175 film festivals who play the film want to be involved and get involved with the theatrical release of the film in that same city later on. So you really have picked up 175 partners, or a big posse, if you will, so that when you go out and distribute a film in a particular city, you already have a co-promotion partner in that city, which gives you an advantage that no other themed kind of movie could have. So I know that I go to Omaha, or I go to Los Angeles or Syracuse, that I already have the Syracuse Jewish Film Festival working locally as when I release the film in that theater, because they had played the film in the Jewish Film Festival, and it gives the film an incredible boost. And I give a lot of that credit to the fact that we've been so successful with Bad Shabbos. That's also built up an audience. And when we had a series of 3 films in a row just before the pandemic that did over $1 million, and it came from this basic strategy. The first 2 films, Doe and Woman's Balcony, which is an Israeli film that we did very successfully. And there was a third film, a Hungarian film, 1945. Each of these films did over $1 million. The first 2 films, Doe and Woman's Balcony, were sold to Netflix for 6 figures. 1945, which is a black and white Hungarian film, and probably the best film we've ever released from a quality perspective, did over $1 million. But in that period, which is very close to 2019, just before the pandemic, Netflix, even though we went over $1 million, did not want to acquire it. And the reason being that Netflix is starting to generate so many of their in-house productions, they were interested in less outside acquisitions. So we looked at ourselves in 2019 and said, we've been doing this for 16 years. This may be the best film we've ever had, 1945. And we don't control our own destiny because Netflix has said no. So right then and there, we said to ourselves, we want to control our own destiny. And we came up with the idea of starting our own streaming service, Jewish streaming service. So we already planned and put the strategy together in 2019, prior to the pandemic. We had a library of 250 Jewish themed titles. And when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, we already had the business plan, and we were ready to go, so that the first week in March, we put up 25 of the Menemsha titles and started ChaiFlicks right at the beginning of the pandemic, which was very opportunistic, obviously, because people were home and not going to the movie theaters. So now we have a company that works with getting people to the theaters, which is Menemsha, and we have a company that is fixated on people at home watching on their television set. Watching programming. So we now have a balance, and that balance is a great balance, because even though streaming is growing and growing, we just proved with Bad Shabbos, which is a comedy, by the way, that the experience of watching that movie in a theater you cannot have at home watching alone.
How does it work, actually? For example, I know that we have TCM. We watch TCM quite a bit. And they have, oftentimes, usually it's on a weekend, they're devoted to the films of ethnic community, another ethnic community. and they'll run, 3 or 4 or 5 films during the weekend. Is that something also that's on your agenda? In other words, some of these films which have not had a wider audience, but which have met with a great deal of favorable critical response, to get even a bigger audience on a platform like TCM.
Yes, I think the analogy there is accurate in general, but I would say that most of the films that you would see on ChaiFlicks and most of the TV series, not all, but most, you wouldn't have access to in North America, UK, Australia, and New Zealand, where we're based, unless there was a ChaiFlicks. We're not showing studio level series and films. We're showing films that are under the radar and series that are under the radar. The Israeli series are less under the radar because the Jewish diaspora are very interested in the Israeli series. But when we put on a series called Family Therapy from Argentina, or we put on a series called Labyrinth of Peace from Switzerland, those series would not have a home other than if ChaiFlicks did not exist, and we are curating for that group of programming that would otherwise not have a home. The good news, Dan, is that we're picking from a large list of films, and we're able to pick, let's say, the best of that large group that we share with our audience.
So I want to talk about the large list. Now, you have shows and films, as you said, from a range of origins, range of countries. Do you aim to balance the content from different Jewish communities, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi, Israeli, diaspora? How do you, or is it just as they come, you take them on?
Well, we are absolutely in the diversity world, in our diversity first. Obviously, we have a quality level that has to be reached for us to acquire a film. But our goal here is not to do the same thing twice. And we don't want to repeat a storyline or a theme and have that as a new acquisition. We're looking to be diverse in every which way, which means geographically and also theme-wise and genre-wise also. So our goal is to fill the service with programs, whether it be series, films, docs, short films, of new and exciting and different and unique stories. That's the essence of what we are. It's like a library. We don't want 2 books about the same subject. We only want one.
Speaking of that, do you see generational differences in the kinds of Jewish stories that people want to watch? Is that a generational thing or not necessarily?
It's definitely a generational thing. I think it's very easily understood. Let's say somebody of my age, I went to college in the 70s, and World War II was not that far in the past. We obviously were introduced to those films when we went to college, and it could have been our grandfathers that we lost in the Shoah if they had not gotten out of Europe. So we had a connection to the Shoah in a way that today's young people do not, and we also had a connection to Israel in a way that young people today do not. Israel was formed in 1948, and I would say the older generation feels much deeper and stronger and is more interested in Shoah stories. I'm not saying yes and no, black and white, but generally speaking, Shoah and Shoah specifically, I would say that the older audience is more interested in as one of many varied programs, because we feel a connectivity that could have been us. If our family hadn't immigrated to the United States. That's how I understand this, in a very personal way, and in a way that excites me to continue to present Shoah stories, which I have my own theory about this today. The way the world has become, the anti-Semitism, Shoah stories are now very important to be showing, because we're getting some, we're coming around the bend now, and it's in a situation that some of it looks like the Europe of the 30s, and we have to be aware of that.
That's an important point. It really is. But there are others too. I mean, for example, Exodus was a touchstone for so many of my generation. Really kind of, in a way, as I'm looking back, Jews were very proud of the fact that there was a major motion picture now that was being watched by Jewish community so small. And it was a very successful film, or at least widely screened film. And they were touchstones along the way. But your point about the show, I think, is extremely important, and I think you're right, that the more we have to deal with these threats of anti-Semitism globally, the more people are searching for, not necessarily, the history of anti-Semitism was certainly, the show comes when it does, between 1939 and 1945, but with all of the writing that's been done, with all of the footage that exists, it's still very much, it's not 80 years old for us. It's like it happened yesterday. And I think there will be a demand. I think it's an excellent point. Now, in looking through the offerings on the ChaiFlicks platform, it's pretty wide ranging. Now, are there genres that surprise you with their popularity? Rom-coms, adventure, something else? What are people gravitating to?
Well, what people are gravitating to today, first and foremost, is comedy. And it's easy to understand why. People, watching the news every day and living in trouble in these times, I think people need an escape. So I would say the primary genre that really is successful is comedy. And I say that as I'm talking about ChaiFlicks. We have a series called Shabbat Nakim, The New Black, that we're on September 10th. We're starting our third season. This is our #1 series. It's an Israeli series, and is actually the first acquisition that we ever made. And it's turned out to be the single most watched and loved program in the history of ChaiFlicks. That's just one idea, comedy, because you want to get away from the news and serious situations of today. But there are rom-coms as well. Love stories always work. These also, I can call that a little bit of escape as well. I will say that, generally speaking, what is working right now is material that allows you to go to another place from current events. That's the key. There is a small percentage of the audience that will want to see stories that relate to what's going on in the world now or years back. But right now, people are looking to get away from today's difficulties in the news every day, and get away from watching shows that look like a little bit like the evening news. And that's cyclical, Dan. And we're very proud of the dramas that we have, that some of them are very watched by a large group of us subscribers because they're so good. But what we're trying to do is have a whole variety of programming. That's the idea. You can't focus on one person or one event or one time period in time, and then that's where the diversity idea comes into play. It's not only telling Jewish stories from different parts of the world, but different different auteurs, different storylines, but it's also telling different types of stories, because you have to think about your audience. No two people are the same, and certain people will watch a program that others won't. And by having a large variety of programs, 2,500 hours, we're appealing to everybody. And the beauty of our channel is that people can look through and find the programmings that most appealing to them. And we just want to make it available. We want to be the home where people can go and feel able to go find something that appeals to them. By the way, I want to jump in here. You know, there are Jewish programming on other subscription services, but we're 100% Jewish, and the idea is for us to be the one-stop shopping, so that if you're thinking about a Jewish program, that 90% of the time you're going to find it on ChaiFlicks. That's the idea, because there's no other service dedicated 100% to Jewish themed programming.
So, final question, and I think you've sort of answered it in the answer that you just gave on the previous question, but let's look at the future. What's your biggest hope for ChaiFlicks? What's the next level for you?
The next level is more and more diverse programming. Believe I don't know what percentage. We're 15 million Jews in the world. It's you know, and with, I don't know, we 3.5 billion people, so we're a very small percentage of human race. But there's in the availability, there are a much higher percentage of programming with Jewish themes in it, made year after year. Why? Because there are great stories that come out of that Jewish world, unique to the Jewish world. My goal, or our goal, is to continue to build and grow the service with more and more diverse stories, and make it more and more the home for everybody at any level of Jewish practice, whether you're religious, whether you're not religious, whether you're not sure, that you can go and find something that will appeal to you from a cultural point of view, or religious point of view, to have you think about your Jewishness and your history and where you came from.
Well, there's clearly a huge demand for more Jewish films and television programs. I think you're right. I think that, notwithstanding the fact that we are 15 million out of billions, this is the kind of thing that does interest us, and I can see that, you know, that market growing, notwithstanding the fact that we are pretty much at the 15 million level. But there's a lot to see, and a lot that people have not seen yet, and yet to see. So your point is well taken. Well, listeners can check out the continuously updated ChaiFlicks catalog and browse new releases at ChaiFlicks.com. There are plenty of trailers to grab your attention and to entice you to subscribe to the very top-notch and award-winning content. You can catch a screening of Bad Shabbos at select theaters across the United States. So thank you very much, Neil, for being with us. We deeply appreciate your telling the story of ChaiFlicks.
Thank you, Dan. I hope to come back and talk to you again. This is really a pleasure.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Conversations with B'nai B'rith. Thank you to Neil Friedman for joining us to discuss his work in bringing Jewish-focused stories to our screens and making Jewish entertainment more accessible and more mainstream. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Share this episode with others, post about it on social media, and leave us a comment or a rating. And to stay updated, follow or subscribe to Conversations with B'nai B'rith wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook for more great content. We'll be back soon with more thoughtful conversations on Jewish history, culture, and the issues that matter most to our community. Until then, I'm Dan Mariaschin. Thanks for listening, and take care.